Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and we are just about finished with the International Dead Zone. On the last international break, we covered a bunch of topics on the channel, looking at the situation we've got at left back, looking at the wingers, and really everything to do with the squad. And in this international break, we've actually had some pretty exciting developments with Arne Engels that we spoke about in the last video, going onwards and upwards, as it were, for Belgium. But we also have another surprise international star in this window, which is just bringing even more question marks back in to the Celtic winger department, into the striker department, for the quality of depth, for the identity, the profile of player that we're looking to keep in the squad and look to bring on. And I'm talking, of course, about everyone's favourite, you either hate him or love him, Marmite character, is Luis Palma. After sinking Mexico to help Honduras to a pretty favourable win with some nice, a really nice finish for one of his goals, certainly, that went relatively viral. It's got a lot of Celtic fans asking again, is there a player in there? Could we get something out of him? And is his Celtic future, is it done and dusted, or is there a coming back for Luis Palma? In the video today, we're going to have a look at the winger department again, a little bit of a follow on from the last one we did. I'll link the last video we did at the end of this one, just because there's some stuff that we speak about in that video we won't talk about in this one. This is a bit more focused on the left hand side, in particular Luis Palma, and what some other potential solutions could be at any point in this video. If you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Get into the comment section and let me know, Luis Palma, is it thumbs up or thumbs down? Has he had his time? Does he still have another chance to take? Always excited to see what you guys say in the comment section on these ones. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Because really, at this point, what's not been said about Luis Palma that we're going to be saying in this one? I think we've kind of beaten this dead horse enough, as it were, in terms of the topic, what he offers, his shortcomings, his obvious qualities that he does have. And if we have a look at his ratings, his match performances that we've seen over the last 6 months, you'll see he's not even really featured that much. And that's been a kind of spectre that's been looming over Luis Palma this season. Looking at his appearance record, the games he has featured in, how long he's been given, how regular he's featured, it's quite clear to see that he's not completely won over Brendan Rodgers. It's been his international exploits, if anything, that have been impressive this season, back in June. And the Dundee game really did show us, I think, everything we need to know about Palma and Yang to a lesser extent. Like I mentioned in the intro, I go into the wingers in a lot more detail in the video we did in the last international window. That's all still pretty valid and on point, so feel free to check out that in a little bit more detail. But in this match, we relentlessly seen Palma get put on the ball for the entire first half. I was lucky enough to be at the stadium for this game, got to watch it in person. In the second half, he still got put on the ball more regularly than you would have expected, considering the fact that we all thought he was going to get subbed off at half time with how bad he done. But the second half, before the substitutions came, we did see Yang get on the ball a little bit more often. But what we've seen in this game, quite simply, wasn't good enough. Time and time again, he would be put on the ball in these positions here and either did not have the ability or the willingness to go by his man, take the space, get to the line and deliver something, or come in on the inside and make something happen. It was so ponderous in possession, so often just playing it safely, playing it back. Whereas when it went back into the middle of the pitch, like I said at the time, it felt like the squad were instructed, give the ball to Palma, give him his chance to shine, let's give him every opportunity to make an impact on this game. And whenever he would give it back into safe possession, it ended up coming back to him. And he still didn't have any solutions or any answers, which is why when you see that goal against Mexico where he's bursting down the left, he's got a defender backpedaling, he comes inside, he takes a nice enough shot, which finds itself going into the bottom corner. It does give Celtic fans that reason to think, oh, is he maybe now just starting to come to life? Is he maybe now starting to, get a bit of wind under his wings and start to kind of show what he's got to offer? And the answer is no, it is not. CONCACAF football is different. See all these teams that are not Canada, USA or Mexico, if any of them are at home, all bets are off. The pitch, it would be like the pitch down at the local school down at where your place is, or the local park where maybe even Red Ash is involved. Maybe there's a car park behind the goals. Maybe dogs are going to run onto the pitch. CONCACAF is a bit mental. Not to say that totally, takes anything away from his goal or his performance or anything to do with football in that region or whatever, because it was a big shock. The Mexico manager get hit by a can from the stand, had to go to hospital with a bashed up head, so definitely not anything to take away from it. Definitely a great result for them and good on him being the national hero and all the rest of it. But it doesn't change the situation that we will have. Honduras don't dominate the ball against Mexico despite winning 2-0. I think we've seen enough from Luis Palma to know that he's at best going to be a square peg in a round hole. He's definitely not a guy that can play on the wings in the wide forward areas for any top end European team, you know, from our standing and everything that we've seen from him so far. In Greece, where we found him, not at one of the big clubs, being the star man for them, being able to take other set pieces and stuff like that. It feels like probably the limit of his powers. This little bit of international credibility that he's brought back into his profile for me should just be something we are maximising to try and loan him out somewhere with a buy option, or maybe try and sell Luis Palma. You know, no harm to him. You know, it is just football at the end of the day. It's not life or death. He scored some lovely goals. He has won us some points and all the rest of it. But it's yeah, for me, this race has been ran. Because Daizen Maeda is quite comfortably owning the left forward, the left wing position. And as we've seen with some of the other positions in the squad, like Bernardo, McKeown, Hatate, Engels, like, we are after having two guys that can do a very similar, if not the same job for a lot of positions in the pitch here. Striker, that's a little bit different for obvious reasons. But I do think with the wingers, you do want a bit of variety, but you can't have players that are so different that you really lose a fundamental aspect of the team dynamic, which I just think Palma is never going to get that work ethic. He's never going to be that decisive on the ball. He's never going to be that cutthroat in attack to really make up for the shortcomings he's got. So I think, you know, in earnest, Celtic really have to be finding another winger to come into the squad. James Forrest has actually got the most minutes out of any other forward that's not the designated front three here of Daizen, Kyogo and Kuhn. He's just ahead of Adam Maeda on minutes so far this season. And yeah, I suppose maybe Maeda was a little bit later to the party. Maybe that's part of it. And Yang, although we've seen Yang feature, and especially against Leipzig, definitely won some people over with the gusto that he really brought to the pitch. And that's something that I've always gave Yang a bit of leeway for. He does have a lot of the stuff you cannot teach some players, like how to be fearless, the ability to just run directly at people. And I think he has the ability to get, or to grow. I think he's got the ability to get what he's not got. And I think he could become a bit better. But the thing with that is, the more minutes he gets, the quicker that'll happen, or to the greater extent it will happen. And he's not really got that luxury with us of having an abundance of minutes to really start to kick on now. Although he's previously had his fair share of minutes, it must be said. But with only Yang, Forrest, and then if we are bombing Palma out, the front line is so shallow that we 100% need to be looking to strengthen and reinforce this in the January transfer window. And I've got a few suggestions. Now, the problem I often find with trying to think of, you know, the sort of players, the sort of solutions that Celtic might try and find in the transfer market is the age profile regionally. Where are we shopping? What is the budget? So, you know, because it is quite hard to know, are we going to follow in, you know, the kind of the Engels, the Kuhn profile? Are we going to do something that we've done before, like get somebody on a free or a loan or something? It's kind of hard to know exactly. So I've tried to cover a few different bases with this one. On the fingers crossed position, you know, the best case scenario that we want to go and spend 7 to 10 million euros on someone that could feasibly push to get into the best, you know, attack line, as well as be a player that is, you know, that has more than one string to their bow. They can play in more than one different position. You know, I was listening to the Huddle Breakdown last week, and they were saying the exact same thing, or Alan Morrison was, about the front line. If he could add one more player in, he would look to have one of those players that's a wee bit more flexible across the front line. And I completely agree. That would be the next best thing we could get to try and, you know, reinforce the ranks that we've got here. And if we were to spend a reasonable amount of money in the modern football transfer market, 22-year-old Jarna Stoikers of Genk for me would be a top candidate. We were linked to Michel Ange Balikwisha of Antwerp in the summer, but he's still not returned from injury. But Stoikers has got 5 goals, 3 assists in the Belgian league so far. Genk are sitting top, and this kid is very, very exciting and is getting a lot of admirers. He is a right winger, right midfielder, and as you can see with his averages, out of 100 over the last 5 games, he's averaging 69, and over the last 15, which is essentially this entire season, he's averaging 61, which for a forward is very, very good going. But although he plays on the right, he's left-footed, and he's been playing a little bit up front for Genk. He's made 14 starts this year, and his scoring profile is very, very encouraging. This is a guy that's not just about goals and assists, but it's about the work ethic, it's about the chance creation for the rest of his team. If we look at Genk against Antwerp here, where he's brought in a 60 out of 100 without getting any decisive actions, no goals, no assists. He's playing lots of balls into the box. He's creating chances for the rest of his team. He's made 3 interceptions as well as winning a tackle and helping the team do both sides of the game very, very effectively. Although he doesn't have much experience on the left exactly at this moment in time for this season or whatever, he is a left-footed winger. He's a forward player. He can play up front or right mid, and, you know, fashioning this guy to being a utility player that could play anywhere across the front line and really push all of our players to be even better, to keep him out the team, or, you know, how much better he could make the front three by starting in it and being, you know, versatile to be able to chop and change in different positions, swap wings for 10 minutes, these kind of things. Maybe double up front like we try to do with Daizen Maeda from the left-hand side on occasion. He's a Belgium under-21 international as well. And for, this feels like quite a good Celtic profile of a transfer, an up-and-coming young player that could, go on and become even better than where we find him at the moment, and who realistically could actually make an impact on the starting lineup, on the best 11, the best 15 players from arrival. Quite similarly is a name that's familiar to a lot of Celtic fans out there, and that is Jens Peter Hueg, formerly of Bodo Glimt. He's actually back there on loan from Frankfurt, and they're 2 games away from maybe winning the league, but his loan with them is going to end in the January transfer window. Maybe he goes back to Frankfurt and tries to fight for his place there, although it has kind of seen for a while that he's not really got a future at Frankfurt, and with his contract only having another year on it, essentially from when that loan ends, it's quite feasible that he could be in the market, and he can play anywhere across the front 3 positions in a variety of different tactics and roles. Since being back in Norway, he's been back to his best self, but I don't think he's consistently been his best self. I think he's kind of struggled to find a lot of consistent actions here, as you can see, but he's definitely had moments where he's been the man and showed up. A 3-2 win here over Porto, where he's been, the main damage creator, 2 goals and an assist in that one. But certainly a player that's got more to give than what you see in the Norwegian league, and a guy that will be becoming cast aside by a Bundesliga outfit. Again, this is a guy that, I don't know, transfer value wise, maybe it would be a bit more in line with what we spent on Nicolas Kuhn, maybe somewhere around the €4 million mark or something like that. But for a guy at 25 years of age, it's been around the block a little bit. He's got some of the experience that we would value, and has that versatility to play anywhere really across the front line, as well as maybe in advanced midfield positions as well. It feels like he would be a great squad addition, no 2 ways about it. If we were to go back down the Nicolas Kuhn route of looking for a guy that's been around some elite clubs, or certainly been in the network of some of these bigger, more advanced football networks, as it were, but someone that's not quite cracked in to the elite level of football, but is showing that promise, is showing that talent, and maybe given a bit more time and a bit more of a better environment to grow, you could see them turn into the best version of themselves. And when I scratch around Europe, there is one player that does kind of jump out in this kind of vein, that does actually fit positionally what we're after, and that is Filip Krastev, the Bulgarian international, currently at PEC Zwolle. Now, this guy's background is a little bit, you need to stay with me here. He's on loan from Lamel, which is a team in the 2nd division in Belgium, but they're part of the City football group, and this guy has been loaned out all across Europe about 5-6 times over without ever really hitting his stride. It had a bit of a loan period back to MLS as well, where it didn't really happen for him. But at PEC Zwolle, he started to show some of his colours. He started to show a bit of his talent, a bit of his ability, and it's starting to show itself on the national stage now as well, for Bulgaria being one of their key players. A guy that can play in the number 10 position, attacking midfield, supporting the striker, but is left-footed and is very comfortable on the left wing position. He's on loan at PEC Zwolle until the end of the season. His contract with Lamel is up in 2027, but at 23 years of age, this is a guy that feels like he's not going to be making the grade at City Football Group. He's not going to be going to Man City anytime soon. He's probably not going to play for Girona, and they're probably not going to get that eye-watering of a transfer fee for him. And this feels like the sort of player that, like you can see here, there's some promise from his time at PEC Zwolle so far this season, breaking in some really nice scores out of 100 here. And again, this is a team that is not doing that great. It's not one of the power teams in the Eredivisie that dominate possession and create lots of chances. But he showed that he's got something about him. He's actually been a bit of a match winner for them, been a bit of a key player when the time has came. And at 23, kind of similar to Nicolas Kuhn. I know he's not that much older at 24. Krastev at 23 is like slightly younger, of course, but think about when we got Kuhn, it was like a little while ago. So same kind of player at the same kind of juncture in his career, and it feels like a guy that if you could get him for like the same kind of price as Nicolas Kuhn, you might actually be on to the same sort of upside potential, which is always exciting. And then the last one I've got is a little bit of the old Celtic that I think a lot of us don't want to see return, but for this one in particular, I would totally get behind this, and that is free agent Johnny fucking Russell. He's been let go by Sporting Kansas City, leaves MLS a bit of a cult hero, a bit of a legend, and I would just love to get Johnny Russell into the hoops for the last 6 months of the season. Doesn't need to be much more than that, and for a backup option off the bench, if we're using James Forrest, then I'm totally happy to have Johnny Russell in the rotation. He'll give his all. He's still got a good bit about him, Johnny Russell, don't write him off at his age. He's still wicked at free kicks, still great at set pieces, a real leader of a personality, and that if we gave him a 6-month contract or something like that, he would leave absolutely everything out there in every game that we called for him on. Maybe not a guy that you would look to see in a Champions League starting lineup and feel confident or great about the transfer policy, but domestically and derby matches and awkward away fixtures after a European game, this kind of thing, like Johnny Russell Look, we've seen way worse players contribute for Celtic, and I've been a big Johnny Russell fan, and I'd like to see him in the hoops. So a wee bit of a selfish one there. I don't think it'll happen, but you never know. But really, at this point of the season, it is all about onwards and upwards and really trying to focus on this ultra marathon to get as many points on the board in the Champions League and domestically, cup, domestic dominance, trebles and all that stuff. It's all about keeping focused and charging on. But I really do hope that with Tisdale being in the building, as well as some of the other developments that we've seen at Celtic over the last 6 months, that we go into the January window prepared to capitalise upon our position of strength. And for me, Luis Palma's time is done. We cannot really rely on Yang or Forrest really as like credible depth options, particularly for thinking about 4 Champions League games, hopefully, fingers crossed, after January or after Christmas. And then that being the norm, we then go into next season hoping to do the same or maybe do a bit better. And if that's the thinking, if that's the ambition, the January window or the next forward we bring in, I would expect it to be in the January window. But this is going to be a real pivotal move that I hope that, really the club are switched on about. We take advantage of Palma getting some positive press and ship him out somewhere where we can maybe get some money for him, or there's a buy option if he starts to kick on a bit. Relieves a bit of the pressure on Forrest, and then, maybe that then relieves Yang to get some minutes here and there because it's not needed for some of the bigger games you're needing to focus on keeping the best 3 fit at all times. So Yang, still a wee bit kind of jury's out, but definitely I'd like to see Palma leave in January, bring someone else in, relieve a bit of the pressure on Forrest. And like I said in the Arne Engels video, like, we're doing amazing right now, but really when you do look at the squad, so many of them can and will do better. And that is the most exciting thing about being a Celtic fan right now, is imagining what that looks like, how high we can climb, how well we can do. And ultimately, it feels like if the transfer policy, like we've seen in the summer, can continue through into future windows, the club and the fans have probably never been more aligned on ambitions and delivering on-pitch results as they've ever been. It's exciting times. I look forward to see what we do in January. I look forward to see what your comments are in the comment section down below on the winger position, on Luis Palma, and everything else that we've spoke about on this one. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more content like this. Hail, hail, Mon the Hoops.